Hey guys, so I want to come on here and talk about this story that once again isn't really making any national news, and I wonder if I should make this video public or just leave it on Patreon. I'll probably just end up leaving it on Patreon, maybe making it public later, or you guys can get in the comments and let me know if you guys think I should make this video public. This video isn't really getting national news coverage like it should be, and the reason why it's not getting it is because, again, this is cop corruption, and you live in a society that simply doesn't care if unarmed black men are murdered, because they'll say, with the title, they'll say Baltimore cops kept toy guns to plant just in case they shot an unarmed person. But the reality of it is you already know that 9 times out of 10, 10 times out of 10, that unarmed person is going to be black. So what's the most interesting about this story is that these are the police officers, okay? It says, clockwise from left, Marcus Taylor, Daniel Herschel, Maurice Moore, Jermel Ram, all of them, these are Baltimore police, okay? So you literally have 5 black dudes, 5 black men on the police force complicit in the murder of their own people. Now you have a bunch of black men out here screaming bed wenches and black women sold out black men and all this other stuff. And I've said from day one, the biggest coons historically and presently have always been black men. Now that doesn't mean that all black men. Again, if it doesn't apply to anyone, no one should get mad. And I'm a firm believer that if somebody is getting offended about what's being said, then they probably fit the category. Most likely they fit the category of what's going on. There is a surplus of black men who are 100% complicit in the maintenance of white supremacy. There is no logical reason why you should have 5 black men out of 8 police, okay? Now, they could be making this up. They could be doing whatever. But what I'm seeing here in this story is 5 black men out of 8 police officers. So that means the majority of them are black, who are in agreement with running around planting toy guns on the victims, who will most likely be black males, of unarmed shootings. That's what you have here. It says in April, let me get to this news clip, and then I'll come back with some commentary.
Anger erupts in the courtroom where 2 Baltimore City police detectives are on trial. A man who says the officers on a corruption gun task force stole thousands of dollars from him broke down on the witness stand today. WJZ investigator Mike Halka is live at the federal courthouse with his emotional testimony. Mike?
He cursed multiple times on the witness stand. He wanted to make clear the terrible toll his encounter with the gun task force has had on his life. We also learned today from the Public Defender's Office about hundreds more cases these officers worked on that may now be compromised. One by one, victims of the Baltimore City Police Department's corrupt gun trace task force testified about dirty cops stealing tens of thousands of dollars from them. And the Public Defender's Office now believes an additional 1,000 cases these officers handled could be compromised.
We already believed it to be around 2,000, and our numbers from earlier this week's testimony goes at least out to 3,000.
The state's attorney's office has dropped fewer than 200 cases so far.
For the level of criminality that was going on the streets with these police officers, egregious is an understatement.
A number of the victims testifying in court have criminal pasts. Many dealt drugs. They were perfect targets, too scared to report officers in the elite unit were stealing from them because they didn't want to face charges themselves. Ivan Bates represents more than a dozen people who say they were victimized.
Didn't matter who you were, and that is something you can't do. The Constitution protects everybody, and clearly what happened is they decided to throw away the Constitution, and they decided they would judge the jury, the law. They decided all that themselves.
The most explosive witness Wednesday in the trial of detectives Marcus Taylor and Daniel Herschel was Ronald Hamilton, who says police knew he was a big gambler at Live Casino and tried to take 25 grand from him. Repeatedly questioned by the defense if he was a drug dealer, he broke down, yelling from the witness stand that the cops destroyed his life. Hamilton says these rogue detectives also frightened his children and destroyed his marriage. Reporting live at the federal courthouse, Mike Helgren, WJZ.
Thank you very much, Mike. Mayor Catherine Pugh says the city is currently auditing overtime in the wake of accusations that these officers fraudulently recorded thousands of hours.
Statements, and the first witness was called in the corruption trial of 2 Baltimore police detectives.
All right, let's go to ABC 2's Brian Kubler, who's been in that courtroom all day and joins us now with more on what happened. Brian.
Yeah, Jamie, the prosecutor in this case called it the perfect storm, that the gun trace task force was not a rogue unit, that it was made up of men who had already gone rogue.
The jury was sworn in at 10:40 this morning, and then immediately the government went to work. Assistant U.S. Attorney Leo Wise making his opening statements, telling the jury that this was a case about greed, that these officers committed robbery and extortion and fraud under the color of law. Quote, they were, simply put, cops and robbers at the same time, he said. The defense pushed back, saying while there may be theft here, it was no robbery, no extortion, that honest police work was being done at first, and that all of the government's witnesses are criminals that have an incentive to point fingers at detectives Daniel Hersel and Marcus Taylor. And the first witness did just that. Detective Maurice Ward, former member of the gun unit who pleaded guilty back in July. Ward spent the afternoon on the stand, prodded by the prosecutor to explain how it all worked to the jury, how the squad would do what they called door pops, the act of driving up to a group aggressively, popping open the door to see who would run first and then chase them. Dope boy cars, the practice of pulling over Acuras or Hondas for no reason at all because those makes were typically owned by drug dealers, the sergeant.
Meaning those cars were typically owned by black men. Okay, because understand that you're not going to have a task force where there's white police officers on it and they're allowing these black men to go around and harass white people. It doesn't work like that. So these are black men on a police force in Baltimore helping white men to victimize and mass incarcerate and set up other black men. That's just the reality of what it is.
You would say. And sneak and peeks, the practice of gaining entry into a home to look around before getting a warrant. The goal, Ward says, was using their mission of seizing guns to steal drugs and money, much of it never reported, and cash always split.
Now, Ward also showed the jury black masks, Halloween-style masks, and heavy-duty tools that he said were used to rob other people. He testified to how the squad would use BB guns kept in their cars and plant them on suspects who didn't have guns on them, and all of it at the direction of Sergeant Wayne Jenkins, he said. Ward is still currently on the stand at this hour. There is no court scheduled for tomorrow. This case will resume on Thursday. For now, we're live in downtown Baltimore. Brian Kubler, ABC 2 News.
Now, so the interesting thing is you could look at this a number of different ways, because keep in mind they're out there talking about, Chicago, all this violence, whatever, and people have already speculated as to the possibility of cops perpetuating a lot of this so-called gang violence and shootings. And I feel like this situation with Baltimore kind of confirms it, because Baltimore isn't the only police task force that does this. We already know they're not. But what's really disturbing to me is the fact that you won't find one so-called conscious black man talk about this, because the majority of these people who are doing this are black men. You already know the majority of the victims of their corruption were black men. So this actually goes back to a historical context called the Moors, okay? Clearly that evil is still running rampant in some of these black men, because the Moors sold out the Africans and helped the Europeans to enslave them. In fact, they gave them all the knowledge and everything they needed to, okay? Now, this isn't to say that black men are garbage and anybody should evade black men. That's not to say that. But what it is to say is that you have a group of people who claim to be conscious, but they ignore the numerous ways that black men helped to maintain white supremacy. They helped to start white supremacy. There wouldn't be any white supremacy if it weren't for the black Moors. And we can say that because we know history tells us the Blackmores helped with white supremacy. Now, we can't go fast forward time and then make the Moors not coon out and then, or rewind time and then make the Moors coon out and then fast forward it to 2018 to see what the effect will be. I'm guessing that if black men weren't complicit in the implementation of white supremacy, there will be no white supremacy. If they weren't helping to maintain white supremacy today, there will be no white supremacy. Understand that this is one of the biggest reasons why I get attacked to the extent that I do on YouTube. Because I point out what these black men do. They may say it's unbalanced. Oh, you don't have any balance. You're always talking about what black men do. There's no balance in situations that are not balanced, though. Like, how do you want me to balance out something that's not balanced? This is actually pretty cut and dry. Either black men are doing these things or they're not. I'm not going to sit here and cherry pick to make some balance where there is none, because that will be deception. That will be just as deceptive as the mainstream media, and I'm claiming to be honest media. Honest media is giving it honestly, regardless to what you think about it. The reality is black men are doing more things to help maintain white supremacy. The reality is black men helped to establish white supremacy. Don't get mad at me for those facts. Address it with your black male counterparts. So it said cops in Maryland carried BB guns intended for planting on unarmed suspects in dirty shootings. Now, we already know there's not an overabundance. There's a very tiny, small percentage of white people who are unarmed who get shot. Almost none. So if you see unarmed suspects in dirty shootings, you can, under 99.9% of the time, though, they're going to be black men. 99.9% of the time, those are going to be black men. So the question is, why do you have 5 black men on a task force being brought to trial because they're helping to set up and murder and get cops out for murdering black men? Maurice Ward, a former detective with the Baltimore Police Department Gun Trace Task Force, reportedly made the claim while on the witness stand last week. Ward testified that fellow officers kept BB guns in their vehicles in case we accidentally hit somebody or got into a shootout so we could plant them, according to this is disgusting, Baltimore Sun. Ward did not say whether a gun or replica handgun had ever been planted, but when Detective Marcus Taylor, one of the defendants, was arrested in 2016, police found a replica gun inside the glove compartment of his vehicle, the Sun reported. The corruption case involved 8 members of the gun task force, 5 of them being black men. They've been accused of multiple crimes, including robbery, extortion, and fabricating evidence. The question here that you should be asking is, who are they robbing, extorting, and fabricating evidence against? I promise you, I would bet my life and every dime I have in savings that they're not white people. They're not white people that they're doing this to. 6 of the 8 detectives are sergeants, Thomas Ayler and Wayne Jenkins. So they said 6 of the 8, Detective Ward, Mamoudou Gondou, Evodio Hendricks, and Jamel Raymond, and Sergeants Thomas Ehlers and Wayne Jenkins have pleaded guilty to racketeering charges. Taylor and Detective Daniel Hersel pled not guilty and are now on trial. Ward's testimony, as Vice noted, is especially disturbing, given all the fatal police shootings, at least 86 nationwide in 2015 and 2016, involving suspects who allegedly had BB guns or replica firearms. Most notably in the recent years was the 2014 fatal shooting of Tamir Rice in Cleveland. Police in that case said the 12-year-old was armed with a pellet gun. So you have black men contributing to this. It was unclear as of Wednesday if authorities in Baltimore will re-examine shootings their department has been involved in. A request for comment from the department was not immediately returned on Wednesday. Look, at this rate, black men are not going to accomplish anything but their own extermination, and they'll help with it at this point. And again, this doesn't apply to all black men, but in general, most black men are helping to maintain white supremacy. And if they weren't, we would be seeing a new reality. That's really just a reality of it. You guys know what I don't understand? I don't understand how it is that people don't realize that the bottom line of it is, if the majority of black men were not submitting to white supremacy or helping white supremacy, how would white supremacy be possible? I want somebody to answer that question for me. And I know there's some black men who will watch this video, and hopefully they won't think emotionally. They will think logically. They won't see this as an attack on black men, because it's really not. I just have a legitimate question. And if somebody can answer this logically and explain this to me, then I wouldn't have to keep asking. How is it that we are still in a system of white supremacy, and people are saying none of the black men are submitting and none of them are helping to maintain white supremacy? How is that possible? I want to know how that, there's no possible, when you don't submit to something, that means you fight it. You actively say, I'm not going to accept a white supremacist system. I'm going to fight it. Now, the fact that black men are mass incarcerated, the sports athletes are owned, disrespected, and degraded by white men. They're getting murdered, and the white officer doesn't go to jail. They're the most unemployed. They're constantly complaining about all of these systemic oppressive forces against them. How would that be possible if they were fighting them at the same time? And we're talking about the majority of black men, and let's globally. But to not complicate it, let's say in this country, how would it be possible for black men to be facing all of these oppressive things, for white supremacy thriving? White supremacy is. How would that be possible without black male submission, without black male participation, without black male men helping them to make? How would it? I'm confused. I really need to understand how that would be possible. I really just want to know how it will be possible. And if anybody can tell me how it would be possible, that would be great. And if they can't, then they should just shut up and get out of their feelings. Because I need to know how this would be possible. You can sit here and say all this about, oh, black women are submitting. Y'all believe in patriarchy, and y'all think that a man submitting to a man is equal to a woman submitting to a man? That's what a lot of these conscious so-called black male leaders will get you to believe. They'll tell you, we believe in patriarchy, so we're going to go for these white women that believe in patriarchy. But in the same breath, when you mention them submitting to white supremacy and the fact, and I'm going to say the fact, that white supremacy could not be maintained without their submission to it, then they'll say, oh, we're not submitting. Really? So why are you still being subjugated by another man? Or they'll say, oh, well, black women are submitting too. Okay, well, you said you believed in patriarchy, so a woman should be submitting to the dominance of another man. You're being dominated, though. You're being subjugated, and you're helping that. I should not have to talk about a case like this because it should not be happening. I should not be looking at 5 black men out of 8 cops who are helping to set up black men. But y'all let me know what y'all think, though, because I'm sure y'all got some opinions. So let me know what you guys think. Get in the comments. And tomorrow I will be doing a live stream, too. We'll be talking about some things. I haven't decided what time, but I'll announce it on Patreon. So let me know what you guys think, and I'll see you in the next one.